Hello, today I'm going to explain my ventilator and also a medical device which is attached to it called a heated humidifier. First of all, this is my ventilator. It keeps me alive. I have a tracheostomy tube right here, so this ventilator air hose connects from the ventilator all the way to my tracheostomy tube. This ventilator is called a positive pressure ventilator. What this means is it pushes high amounts of pressure into my lungs. I can demonstrate that for you. So here you can listen to the sound of the ventilator. So that is how my ventilator works. It pushes high pressure into my lungs to expand my lungs. This gives me an inhalation, a breath in, and then the pressure on the ventilator drops down. It does not drop down to zero, but it drops down a significant amount. And when this happens, the air in my lungs passively exhale, and then it goes out through this exhalation valve to get out of my system. If I did not have this exhalation valve right here, I would not be able to breathe out. But thankfully, they're very smart with designing ventilator tubing systems, and it has an exhalation valve to get rid of the carbon dioxide. Let me show you a close-up of my ventilator and explain a few other features about it. Okay, so this is the front of my ventilator. As you can see, it has this screen right here. This machine is not a touch screen. I can touch wherever I want and it will not do anything. The Trilogy Evo does have a touch screen, so if you have that, do not start touching your screen because you might start messing up the settings. So first thing we see here is there is this bar that goes across. When this goes up, that's an inhalation. That's giving me a breath in. That's the pressure it is giving for a breath in. Right now, it's giving me a pressure approximately 8.9. And then when it cuts off, it's going down to about 6. So it's going between about 6 and 9 is about the pressures that it's giving me. The respiration rate is right here. It's set at 14 breaths per minute. And then the volume total exhaled. I do not actually have this machine connected to me because I'm using my other machine to be able to film this. And this should not be at 0. This should be a higher number. And then this is the leak. The leak is really high right now because I do not have the machine on. But let me switch over quickly to the machine. And as you can see, I switched over now. And so now these numbers are going to actually register. Just got to wait for them to come up here. You can see my pressures are now higher. I'm now at about 15.2. Respirations are a little bit higher because I'm getting out of breath because I'm talking. And then the volume total exhaled is going to go up here. It's going to go about 650 is about where I usually sit. And the leak now is down to 40. So there are a couple other numbers on here, but it's nothing that I usually it's nothing that concerns me. The other thing we see here is the battery levels. This is my internal battery. This is the detached battery. And right here is the menu that you can switch to different settings, or there's different options. You can also see the alarm on here. So that's everything with that. It's very easy to turn this machine on and off. You simply press the button and it says power on, power off, yes or no. Yes, we want to turn it off, and it just clicks off. To turn it back on, you simply push it again and it starts right back up. Pretty simple. It's nothing too complex. So that's how this machine operates. There's also an outlet that this can be plugged into. When it's plugged in, this is green. When I unplug this, this is going to alarm to let us know that it is not plugged in. And now you're going to get an alarm, and this is going to beep on you. To get rid of this alarm, you can silence it and do that, but that will continue. This will continue to flash an alarm for the next 2 minutes if you do nothing, or unless you plug this back in. When I first got my ventilator, this is a funny story. Every time I unplugged this, I always got this message. I had no idea how to clear this out, and it's really easy actually to clear this out. All you have to do is hit reset. And there you go, it is all back to normal. So let's continue on, flipping this over to the back side. Okay, this is the back of the machine. It's pretty simple. First of all, the way the ventilator breathes in is through this intake right here, there is a filter over it, but if you take that off, this just goes directly into the machine. It takes room air and then it pressurizes it and gives me a breath in. Other things we see here, this is for oxygen attachment. I do not have oxygen, so I do not worry about that. But if you had oxygen, this is where you'd attach the oxygen. The oxygen would go in through the machine. It would get pressurized with the room air and get titrated to the proper oxygen level. There are a couple other things back here. This is for attaching to a ventilator cart or a ventilator stand. It's pretty easy to slide it. You just slide it on and off. And then this is my battery. This is a detachable battery, and I can light this up and it tells me it is fully charged. I have other batteries like this that I can switch them in and out, but I generally just keep one battery in at all times and just pops right in and I'm good to go. Also on the side here, there is a air filter. Now if I take this off, you're gonna hear how pressurized this air is. And if you put that back on, it really makes it a lot quieter. And if I just take this off, that air filter does wonders to keep the noise down on the ventilator. So that is my ventilator. Let me show you how this gets connected up to a machine called a heated humidifier. This machine down here is called a heated humidifier. The best way to connect it to a ventilator is using this contraption. It is called a ventilator stand or a ventilator cart. The ventilator will sit right up here and then you can loop down the connections down to the water chamber. This makes everything stay upright. So let me show you how you do that. Let me get the ventilator right here. And now we're just going to turn this around. This is where these two connect. If you just lift this up, get those aligned, which it is much better if you're not trying to film this. Okay, all right, we got that. And it slides down and it's very stable. And the way you get it back off is you simply lift it back up. Slides in and out really easily. Makes life so much simpler. And now we have this right here. This is where you're going to connect the tubing. My tubing has this little L-shaped connector. It makes it easier to fit on here. The L-shaped connector runs down, 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 and it's going to connect here to my water chamber. Now the way, I'm going to turn this on. The way this is going to run, air is going to go inside here. Then it's going to go through this right here, this tubing. It's going to go down, down, down. This is the water chamber. This is the heater. And then this is eventually just going to connect back up to me. I'm going to quick switch this over one moment. So one thing to note, this is called the water chamber. This is where you put water inside as the air is coming down here. It is just regular room air, which is usually pretty dry. It comes, it passes over this water, it picks up moisture, and then it's going to go through this tube and then get delivered to the lungs. And now you think, why would I want water in my air that I'm inhaling? The reason is room air is very dry and it will dehydrate the lungs. So this water chamber is essential to have. And as you can see, this is getting kind of low. Usually I try to keep it fuller, and this is the maximum amount of water that I ever have at one time. The other thing to note, that this down here is called the heater. This is a very important thing. If you take this off, this plate right here is actually very hot at the moment. It is a heater. So what you need is you need this heater to be on. So to turn on the heater, it is pretty simple. There is just a switch underneath here and you just switch it up. When it turns on, lights will illuminate. Ooh, ah, and it actually tells me what temperature this is at. If I move this, right now it's at 38 centigrade. Or we can do 37. 37 is body temperature. I try to keep it at about body temperature. So this will heat it up to 37 degrees Celsius, or approximately 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit. That will heat up this plate. That plate will heat up this water, and the water will get warm. So as this room air, which is approximately 68 degrees Fahrenheit or approximately 20 degrees Celsius, as that colder air comes in, it's going to go into this water chamber. It's going to get heated up. If you know anything about the properties of air and the amount of water it can hold, warmer air can hold more water than colder air. So this water gets heated up, and as this water hits this hot water, the air will be heated. It can hold more water. It will increase the moisture. The moisture will go into this tubing. This warmer, moist air will enter the airways, and that will prevent the airways from drying out. Having a heated humidifier is absolutely essential. If you have a tracheostomy tube attached to a ventilator, you need a heated humidifier to keep the airways moist. If you do not use a heated humidifier and just use regular dry room air, your lungs will start to crack and bleed, and they can even develop blood clots in them, and you can have a lot of serious complications. For this reason, I almost always have my heated humidifier on as much as possible. I take this everywhere. I take it to the hospital with me. I take it to doctor's appointments with me. Any place I go, except maybe going to the grocery store where I cannot plug it in because it does require electricity. So if you don't have electricity, you cannot use this, but I try to make it a point wherever I go. I always keep this plugged in and operating because this saves my lungs from getting very cracked, very dry, and this keeps my mucus hydrated, and it prevents me from getting mucus plugs. So that is my heated humidifier. Now this will actually connect, and I'll switch the camera over to me 1 second here. Hello, yes. So this tubing right here will get connected. If I can see it, there we go. It's all the way, all the way, all the way, all the way. Keep going. It's really hard to do this. Keep going, and it gets connected up here to my tracheostomy tube. So this is pushing warm, moist air into my lungs. It is keeping me hydrated. And this is called a heated wire system because there are wires here. These wires go into the tubing. The tubing actually has wires inside. And so this tubing is heated up. Why do you do this? Because as you can probably see, there is some moisture in here. Not very well. Can't see it that well. But there is some moisture in here, and as this air travels, it will start to cool down, and if it cools down, it starts to produce condensation because as the water cools, it loses the ability to hold water. So you want this, it's called a heated wire circuit. You want this because these wires keep the inside of this warm. This keeps the air from cooling off as it's traveling, and up here is where it ends. This is a temperature probe. It makes sure that these wires inside this circuit stay warm, and it controls how much warmth is inside this tubing circuit. Once it gets up here, there is no heat, or there's no heated wires, so this does occasionally start to cool off. It's not a big deal because it's a very, very short distance, and as you can see, it's just a little bit, and whoop, into my lungs. So that is how my heated humidifier works. That is an explanation of my ventilator and also my heated humidifier. I am very grateful and thankful for these devices. They help keep me alive, and they are pretty easy to operate. They're not that complex, at least for the home ventilators. Now, there are ventilators at the hospital which are much more complex. They have a lot of bells and whistles, and they can do a lot of things. But these home ventilators are pretty simple, easy to operate, and are lifesavers. I am so grateful and thankful for all this medical equipment. It makes living at home possible, and for that, I'm very blessed. Thank you so much for joining me. Please remember to like and subscribe down below. Please also remember to comment and share. It really helps this YouTube channel. I hope you have a great day and a wonderful week. Bye-bye.